Radyo-Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin mista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Lipad ka Blue Eagle, galing hiting at tigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan.
Radyo-Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atinista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugod, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Lipat na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan.
Radyo-Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin mista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong.
Meron? Ano nga ba ang meron? Paano nga bang mabuhay ng tapat sa meron? Don't you wish you can relive your philo classes? The terror teachers? The terrible oral exams? Or the even terrifying but liberating and life-changing aha moments? Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Here's your chance! Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Kasama ang mga pilosopong sina Jovi Miroy at Ron Capinding. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping upward, leaping forward. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping to greater heights, to greater wisdom, to greater magis. Lundag na, Ateneo!
Okay.
Sir, sa inyong lahat.
Magandang hapon, happy Easter. Yes, right after Easter, hindi tayo nagkaroon ng show, di ba? Bakit ka ba? Walang dahilan.
Wala pa yata ang podcast noon.
Wala pa broadcast on the Monday right after Easter Sunday. So this is our show after 2 weeks. Even the Holy Week, hindi rin di ba? That Holy Monday, wala tayo. So this is after 3 Mondays. Nandito tayo ulit para humarap. And next Monday, I suppose, it's May 2. Then the Monday after that is May 9 elections. So baka meron lang tayong dito. Wala rin siguro tayong broadcast sa May 9, no? Okay? Sa May 2 na tayo susunod. But anyway, Sir Jovi, kumusta ka na? How has life been in the past 3 weeks?
Masaya. Masaya naman.
You want to expound on that more?
Lagi ako masaya sa Holy Week.
Oh, yes. Well, ako naman busy. Yun na yata pinaka-busy ko, yung break na yon. Because yun na nga, ikaw ang driver, pupunta ka sa relatives, tapos my family is may ini-sponsor na santo sa procession sa...
Ganon? Anong santo yun?
Maria Akobe. Mga Samson naman. Mga Samson, hindi Capinding. So yung ng wife ko. Yung family nila. At siyempre, dati sila yung mga pamangkin, ngayon sila na yung mga tita. So they're the ones in charge ngayon. So, yun. So, very busy and nagkaroon din ako ng time to reflect and think about things. At masaya. Masaya yung break na yan. Tulad mo, masaya rin. So ngayon, magkakaroon tayo ng palabas at kumusta? Paano ba tayo? Nag-usap tayo the previous weekend and we discussed about what topic we will showcase today. And we wanted to talk about creativity. Okay? Pagkamalikhain. No? Or kahit na, pagkamalikhain. Kasama na rin dyan siguro innovation, pati arts, parang sining at pagkamalikhain at mga paglabas sa kahon, kung ano man. No? At hindi lang tayo mag-usap dyan kahit malikhain din yata tayo. I would like to assume that. No? We invited very important and guests, mga dignified at makilala sa kanilang mga industriya para samahan tayo ngayon para pag-usapan to. And I particularly would like to know a lot about Archipelago. Yun ang pangalan ng kanilang company. But Sir Jovi, like to do the honors of introducing our guest. And thank you very much for agreeing to join us.
Ang presidente ng radyo-katipunan.com. Isang long-time music industry practitioner. At siya ay walang iba. She's very well known, in fact. One of the most illustrious alumni of the Ateneo. Si Minky Lagdameo.
Hello.
Minky.
Good afternoon. Wow, sir, for you to say that you were my philo teacher, and I can proudly say I did well in your class. Straight A.
Wow.
Philo of man, diba? So I still remember my Martin Buber and Rene Descartes, just to let you know.
Wow.
So yes, thank you for the intro. Thank you for inviting me. Pretty much, yes, graduated legal management from Ateneo, became a Jesuit volunteer. But
Wow.
really, Actually, lived in Bukidnon, stayed in Ateneo for 2 more years at the JVP office to set up the foundation. Went corporate, but then I really just always loved music as a passion until eventually, I guess it found me. And then I just put my head down and started working and working and working, and things just moved on from, oh, I cannot put my video on. I have sore eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, but to Sir Joey, I have sore eyes now, so I look like Bart Simpson. So, not nice at all.
How did
But
you get your sore eyes?
I don't know. I guess cleaning dust, and then I rub my eyes. So, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
nasty.
my niece also has sore eyes. I guess medyo dumadami ngayon na may sore eyes, no? Kasi baka nasa hangin din. Yeah.
Right, that's true. We can't wash our hands too much, right? I mean,
Yes.
I have sugat
And-
na from all the washing.
kahit shades, hindi mahalata pa rin. Anyway, baka naman.
Pero uncomfortable eh. You have to keep on wiping. So,
Yes. Yeah. We understand, but anyway, ang display naman natin sa ating online show ay parang naka 3 panels. So there's always a visual. Nakikita kami ng dalawa ni Sir Jovi and plus your frame. No problem.
Can I ask Twinkie where are you now? Where you're located now?
I'm in Manila. I've been working from home for the last couple of years. In fact, we're still all working from home because it's an online business, right? So we don't really need to be in the office just yet. Everything has been done virtually. So yeah, I'm here, pretty much here, but do all the work, including the people we deal with locally and abroad. So I operate on all sorts of time zones.
I see.
But yeah.
Yeah, Twinkie.
Leo.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for agreeing to join us to this afternoon sa show namin.
Mr. Jovi.
Oh, talaga. Ako naman, yes, initially, but eventually I've learned to say no. But Twinkie, you were telling us about you went corporate and then somehow music stayed and music found you. Can you expound and be more? Can you tell us that part of your story? How did while you were in the corporate world, how did the music find you and eventually persisted in your life?
Well, I always liked music. As you know, I was passionate. I'm a passionate music fan, right? And when I went corporate, I was working for Sony Electronics.
Yes.
And I happened to meet the gentleman of Tower Records worldwide. So they were flying in at that time quite often. They were looking for a franchisee, a partner. And then when they found one, I was contacted by the head, and he asked me to join the company. So I became employee 001.
Oh.
But then what happened was, all throughout naman growing up, high school, college, I was always into watching shows and everything. My cousin started the Dawn, so who's also Atenean, by the way, since prep, my cousin Teddy Diaz. And so, when I was growing up, watching shows in high school, all the people who were there that we'd watch with eventually became the head of MTV, became the program head of NU107. So somehow it was all that base. And then on my side of the family as well, my grand aunt used to run the Metropolitan Theater. So I grew up also with, classical music, and theater. Although I didn't find it so cool when you're that young age, but later on in life it worked. So after Tower Records, and my first official dip into the music industry was running marketing for a retail store.
Yeah.
And then I became marketing head of EMI, which is a major record label. And I was hired by another Philo alumnus, si JV Colaico, who used to teach.
Wow.
Right. So JV got me. We knew each other from hanging out in Club Dread throughout college. And so I got to working with him. And then I left. I went to New York, and the whole digital thing was starting then. So I lived there, learned that from my cousin-in-law who's at Warner Music. And then I came back, worked with Gary Valenciano to help set up his digital business. And then I consulted with Gary for years after that. But then fast forward to 2 years later, I met a gentleman who's also an Atenean, who's BMH, I think, batch 84. His name is June C. of Tau Corp, Julio C. Jr. And he's a very well-known businessman, but then he loves music. And at the time when I met him, he's from Dumaguete and he wanted to do something, seeing how music could help the community, could help how people travel abroad and you go to a place because there's a festival and that's what they're known for, right?
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
he wanted to do that for Dumaguete because Dumaguete is known already for the writer's workshop, right? So he wanted to do something for music. And then he went on sabbatical. I was doing my thing. And then about a year and a half later, he came back. He already met Maestro Ryan Cayabyab, and I had known Ryan from the industry. And he asked us, Ryan had an idea to put together a music camp. And that came from the idea of Ryan and I talking, saying, bakit lahat ng tao ngayon puro covers ang ginagawa? Anong nangyari sa mga original songwriter?
Right.
And so we put that together in 2010. That became the Elements Music Camp. And pretty much Elements is discovering and developing aspiring singer-songwriters. So it was just a training camp. We would bring in 24 mentors from the music industry, everybody from other Ateneo alumni like Joey Ayala, Jim Paredes, but Chito Miranda. But then we also had other people like Gary V, Gary Granada, Noel Cabangon, Ogie Alcacid, everybody. And then we would get 60 aspiring singer-songwriters from all over the country who had to audition. It's free. It was privately funded, so they really get in on merit. And so we did that. And pretty much in 2010, at the start of Elements, yan yung buong circle of my social development, my love for social development na JVP and the music. And
Yes.
from then on, since that path, 2010 onwards, is I've really taken it on as my calling to really focus on development work for the music industry. And because I'd assume different roles, diba? I'd come from a label, a store, an artist. I worked pa for, I forgot to say after Gary V, I worked pa for MTV as director for TAR. I was the liaison between MTV and the music industry. So, after all of that, I saw where all the gaps were and what we need to fix amongst ourselves. And then the pandemic happened. When the pandemic happened, syempre sinabi ng gobyerno, creatives non-essential kayong lahat.
Yeah.
So, of course, it collapsed. It collapsed without any government support. And even before that, people were asking, like, how do you put Elements online? Because we had run it for 6 years from 2010 to 2016. And so, what do we do? Until Congressman Tof de Venecia filed the Creative Industries Development Act bill. And that's to support the creative sector through various government tools, such as putting the council together, providing funding for education, infrastructure, etc. And I was called in to help because Tof asked us for help, said, can the private sector help us?
Twinkie, is that with Paolo Mercado as well?
Paolo is Creative Economies Council of the Philippines.
But
So-
so there's no intersection.
Not really. It's just that Tof asked us as the private sector, can you come and help lobby privately? Because nga, he was getting pushback na hindi nga kami essential. So hindi tinitingnan ng mga tao in the lower house na, don't give budget there because, it's not important. And so we gathered and a group of volunteers together. It eventually became the Creative Industries Philippines. So I'm there for music. Paolo was there for CECP. J Block, who's my partner at Archipelago, her company, she's there as a live events organizer. Ian Monsod, of course, who's another Ateneo alumnus, is there also for music. So we all got together, and it was people from music, advertising, fashion, design, architecture, theater.
Pero alam ko wala pa yung food, no? Hindi pa yata
Gastronomy is part of it.
already. Okay.
There are 54 creative industries put into 9 domains. So, of that,
So, Sir Ron, mukhang maraming pwedeng itanong dyan.
Ayan.
Yeah,
So-
actually, I was listening to the whole story. Lahat nakaka-relate ako. Band of my high school days talagang The Dawn, mentioning all the other JV Colaiko, Gary V, Ryan Pepiap,
Yes.
Joey Ayala, Chito Miranda, all these just ring bells to me. And Jim Paredes, OG Alcacid, even MTV, and even Representative Tom De Venecia. We've also been dealing with him as yung actor,
Yes.
League of Filipino Actors.
Tama,
So
tama.
a lot, very familiar. You mentioned something about development work for the music industry. You named it like that.
Yes.
Whole ano. Paano yun? Can you expound on that? When you say you said you identified some gaps, ganyan. So paano ba yun? When you say development work for the music industry, kala ko nga it has a life of its own. It's vibrant. Yan para meron kailangan pang development work para sa music industry. Paano yun?
Let me ask you, for both of you, what is your thought when you say you want to get into the music industry? What role do you normally think you will play?
Me?
Music creation, like I say creation kasi my son produces music, but he does parang
Okay.
I'd like to think that may nagpo-produce or nagko-compose din. Ako,
Okay.
I'm a poet and I'm a writer. So I write lyrics. I sometimes call my former students who are into music to make a song out of it. So
Okay.
parang I'd like to imagine that it's creation of songs and music.
Sir Jovi.
Well,
do
di ba, I write musical
Music.
dramas and
Mm-mm.
pero yun lang.
Actually, if you think about it, kasi in the creative industries, it's two words. It's creative and industry. So when you say creative, that's being artistic, the craft. When you say industry, it's the economic side of
Business.
things, the business, right? I have been in the business side of the music industry. I am not artistic or creative in that sense at all. When people ask, do you play? No, I press play. So
The business side would be like selling,
the
marketing.
business side, I'll tell you, for example, it takes a village. You watch a concert. You imagine there's the singer on stage and there's the band, right? The musicians. But behind the scenes, you have a stage manager, you have a technical director, you have a sound engineer, you have a director, you have a script writer, you have a stylist, you have a makeup artist, you have publicists, you have a producer, you have a venue. All of those things are all part of the industry. People think when you have to get into the industry, you think, oh, I have to be the one in front. They don't realize that there's so many roles behind it. Like in just to go back where Archipelago is we decided to help everyone. Let's go back to education. And let's try to put on the table and make available to everyone the skills that need to be leveled up, or let's focus on courses that people wouldn't find in schools. Like, for example, when people think of a movie, they think, okay, the normal, the glam jobs are the actor, the writer, and the director. But then you don't think, oh, there's a production manager who looks for the locations, who hires the extras, who does the budget, right? You don't think about the guys who carry the lights, the guys who do the sound, the people who do the fight sequences, the people
So
who...
parang what you're saying is that the music industry and the creative, they actually provide a lot of
Jobs.
employment.
Yes, quite a lot. Like when live events was not considered a creative industry, and they had to form themselves together during the pandemic to form the National Live Events Coalition. That's 400,000 workers.
400,000 workers.
Yes, imagine everybody in an event. Everybody in an event, the guys building the stage, the guys building the lights,
Correct.
all the freelance workers, all of those guys are not counted into the system, right? That's why they had to form a coalition. The same goes with the fashion industry. Diba? Lahat ng tao akalang lang designer, model. Hindi, may director, may tagatahi, may weaver, diba? May manufacturer. So it's really quite a lot. So the music industry is the same. There are many layers. Like when you put a song together, it's not just the lyrics and the melodies. You imagine if you want to make that, you talk to your friend. So he does the music. Then somebody has to arrange. And then if you go to recording studio, you need an engineer. and then you need a producer, and you need a studio first of all. Diba? So those are different components of just one industry, which is for music, na ang dami-daming layers at ang dami-daming ibang roles need to be filled, right? And from the get-go, when people think creative industries, akala nila kailangan artistic. Hindi eh. Like, look at me. I just like music. And I ended up here because my love for it, I found my path in it. Diba?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to do. I get to work with a lot of artists. I get to work with a lot of creative people, but I'm forever behind the scenes. That's what I do. I build. Alam mo?
Yeah.
Diba?
Twinkie, I'm familiar with that. Being in theater, I know that there are so many other roles, even backstage. But there's this artistic team, the stage management team, and then the technical team in theater. I'm just using, but somehow that other aspect, which is the business part, the industry part, is what some of the artistic industries need. Kasi nga maraming starving artists, di ba? Doon sila nagkukulang bigla in making it a business, something that can put food on the table. So minsan we have a lot of artistic initiatives, efforts, pero yun ang kulang sa parteng yun eh, the business part of it hindi naalagaan. And somehow, even if we say that we have yung music nga has taken off significantly, but some other areas like the theater, for example, hindi pa masyado. Yung live events nga nauna pa eh. That's not yung live events, yung mga concerts, but somehow theater parang also needs help in that area, not in the production part, but in the business parts like marketing and sales and so many other things. So this is very interesting when you say that creative industry is usually both creative, which we have a lot of, and maybe a lot of people are masters of this already, but the industry part is somehow not so explored.
Right. That's why, for example, in Archipelago, we have a course which nobody has ever, I think, taken anywhere. It's a course on how to develop a talent manager. A manager. You know, like, for example, whether it's yourself or somebody, people ngayon in digital, they think, I get my song out on Spotify, I'm done. No. You have to think, how do I find my fans? How do I make money?
Yeah.
And there are actually skills to that. So we have a course on Archipelago called Finding Your Fans. And it's actually how to read the data. It's a world now of data. And know where you stand against other artists. Where do you stand in your location? Where do you, because the one teaching it is a Filipino-American named Jason Hoven. He works for Chartmetric, which is the #1 music data analytics company in the world. They service all the record labels, Live Nation. And they study not just yung streams on mga Spotify and YouTube, they also study social media. So you can see, yung targeted fan, what brands are they following? Where are they hanging out? What are they doing? Those are things which, if you're a creator, you have to be aware of. Because I remember when I was at Tower Records, I'm a fan, right? Of course, forever using my employee discount to buy all the music I want, di ba? Pero I had one thing in my head that I learned early on and what to do with it. And I was the marketing head. It was as simple as this. I don't have to like it. I just have to know other people like it. So if it's not my hilig to sell a boy band, I have to understand somebody else wants to buy the boy band. So how do I talk to them?
Many others want to buy boy band.
Yeah, diba? And then when they buy the boy band, then I get, it gets to fund all the more eclectic things in the store, right? So it's the same. It's the same concept of looking at a creator as a business. I'm sure you have said it, the whole concept of creative entrepreneurship. So our course, for example, in artist management, the role of a music manager is how do you look at yourself as a business? For example, you have talent. How do you know when you need to have a contract? What kind of contracts are there? How do you deal with people who want to hire you? How do you deal with putting things together? We have another course there called Pitchcraft, which is by the co-writer of 13.
I didn't see all this. I went to your page, Archipelago. Nakita ko some interesting courses like content creation, creator's toolkit. But there are even more interesting courses pala, like what you're pitching your...
The Creator's Toolkit are courses na apply across industries.
Yeah.
So the pitchcraft course is how to sell your creative idea. So you have a song, you have a script. How do you pitch it to a producer? How do you pitch it to a
I'd like
brand?
to take that course, don't you, Sir
Yes,
Jovi?
yan as well.
Everyone should take that, di ba? Kasi marami kaming mga, lalo na ngayong pandemic, we were able to create we have to produce some, we were able to produce several things, but we don't know how to market it or how to bring it to the attention of those who would be interested.
And this is
Maybe-
pitching to moguls. Kasi yung
Yeah, how
trend,
do we even,
they-
but can I just go straight to the mogul? So,
sino
Yeah.
ba-
But you can. There's a course we're developing that's really interesting. You're familiar with the group Evanescence? Yung band?
yeah. That band na parang
Medyo
Tama?
the female singer with the...
yeah,
Anyway,
the female singer na parang umiiyak yung
yeah, yung
boses niya.
boses.
Yeah.
The cellist there, his name is Dave Edgar. He's actually a Grammy-nominated cellist who came from Juilliard at
Yeah.
age 9. But then he went with Evanescence. He produces classical work. He's the guy in the Coldplay Viva La Vida song who's playing in the beginning.
Oh, yeah,
Hear
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Dave is a musician, and then he partnered with a mixed martial artist. And
Oh.
we have a course put together called Composing a Champion. And it's basically the thought process. It's a workshop which is designed that for people to think it's balancing your intellectual, your emotional, and your physical. Because some people don't realize that, you may have the right thought, but when you present, your body language is off, right?
Yes.
Or some people, for example, they have nerves, they get scared, and so emotionally they get rattled, and they're not able to make the right decision. So the concept of the course is taking the mindset and experience of a professional performer and a professional fighter, and the kind of training you need to have, like when you enter the ring or you go on stage, how do you condition yourself so that you can handle situations, right? And it's designed to be a strategy you develop, so whatever situation happens to you in life, you're able to assess it and make the right choice and be successful. So those are courses, for example, the Creator's Toolkit that we have, or Creating Your Headspace, is basically mental wellness for creatives. So how do you handle, it's not per se a condition, but it's like, it's things like, how do you handle anxiety? How do you handle pressure? How do you handle rejection, which is very common in the creative industries, diba?
Yes.
How do you continue to stay creative when you don't feel people are paying attention to you anymore? How do you reinvent? How do you innovate? So there are courses like that in Archipelago, other than the craft, which also teach the soft skills, which are essential.
Yes.
So
diba?
are these the gaps that you were mentioning, kanina? When you met all these artists, parang they didn't know that they have to take all these things into consideration.
Yes, tama. Because
Yeah.
if everybody is a creator, we used to say this in our Elements Music Camp, if you're creating for yourself in your room, no problem. Do whatever you like. But if you start wondering why you're not earning, you have to take into consideration a lot of things. One, who are you talking to? Does your song resonate with anyone? Is your song relevant? What you're talking about? I mean, is it easy to listen to? Are you out there being visible, being heard? So it's more than just, having the talent and the ganas. It's what do you do with it after, right?
Yes.
So if you look at some of our courses now that we started, it's just a little bit filling in the gaps of trying to address things that are there, whether it's skills you need to have or whether it's leveling up your craft. Like the course of Noy Volante is songwriting if you are a hired songwriter, meaning, hinire ka ng ad agency, hinire ka ng TV producer to write their theme song or a movie producer to write how do you write? Iba na yan eh. Hindi na yan your own self-expression.
Hindi na yung creative lang na parang di ba? Kumbaga, may client ka eh. Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
Because I used to teach playwriting, and I told that to the class once, and it's script writing is not just self-expression. There was a scandal.
Talaga?
Yes.
Okay.
Because sometimes I told them, you will have to write someone else's script.
Oh, that's true. Like,
But they were really
Yeah.
scandalized. And
Diba?
they can no longer teach playwright.
Diba?
So-
Kasi ganun, diba? What if you're hired to write for a fellow singer? Iba na yung boses, iba na yung character, iba na yung personality. So even if you look at Archipelago, kahit na may songwriting courses, iba pa rin. Iba pa rin yung approach. So,
Yeah, so I looked at the page of Archipelago, and there's design, music, content creation, performing arts, even film. So we've been mentioning Archipelago since we started. Ano ba itong Archipelago? So you formed this. What was the vision when you created it to provide those courses that are identified as gaps in industries? Ano ba talaga ang gustong in as a whole, no? Yung Archipelago, what is it? Or what does it offer?
yung meron.
No, what I mean is, kumbaga, you will not offer philo classes, diba? Parang,
But
Yung existential.
what gap is it trying to bridge? Parang itong Archipelago sa sakali.
Basically, we started talking about the creative economy, diba? The
Correct.
creative economy is really what happens when the creative sector is able to produce revenue and it contributes to the GDP, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at a country like Korea, for example, when their cheap manufacturing dropped because it went to China, the president decided, let's focus on soft skills. So they started focusing on creativity, right? And that's where 10, 15 years in the making, 20 years in the making, now we're seeing how K-drama, K-pop, etc. really works. For example, I'll share with you the creative economy figures ng Korea in 2012 was $5 billion, the creative economy contribution. In 2020, BTS alone is $5 billion. They provide about a little less than 1% of the entire economy of Korea, right? 800,000 tourists just for them. So
Yeah.
the Philippines, what we want to do is what we envision for Archipelago is to help grow the creative economy. And that
Correct.
means
So let's repeat that. So you want to grow the creative economy. So parang the economy growing through the creative industry.
the creative sector, yes, the creative sector
Yes.
being able to be a revenue source for the country.
Yeah.
Diba?
So I remember,
So,
tama nga, kinikwento sa akin dati sa Europe daw, upper strata yung mga performers, pero sa atin parang starving dito. Pero you see the model of yung South Korea, di ba? Na parang yun na yung pinlagang, at sabi nga ni Twinkie, yung hindi na nila makukompetensya dito sa sa industry ito yung China, pero nag-soft skills sila. It's both inspiring at nakakahinayang for me, kasi we know that Filipinos are really very creative and very talented, but somehow wala pa talagang
Question nga daw kasi yung
ano. Hello, Jovi?
natin, yung we want to be out there, we want to be the one, tayo yung bida. Pero it actually takes more than that.
yes, that's why we decided, like with me, I decided to double down and say, let's look at education. Because creativity is one thing, talent is another thing, training and having skills and knowledge is another. Like, for example, when you say, as Jim Paredes always used to say in our music camp, diba? Ang Pilipino magaling sa hardware. May boses, diba?
Okay.
Pero yung software is what we need to develop. Our creation, our creation. When you look at Philippine music, for example, that's what about the gaps. We have people who can create great songs and great people who can sing. But why are we not, why has the next Taylor Swift or BTS not come from here?
So Twinkie, what is software? Kung ang hardware ay yung boses, ay yung kayang sumulat at lahat, what is the software part of it?
Software is your training and your knowledge. Like we talk about, for example, when we look at why we wanted to do this, it's because we wanted to build a creative economy. But as we started to look at it, connect the dots, there are people who have skills, they just need to level up. Or there are people who need to reskill, and this far more so in the school system, people need to be open to the idea that you can have a career as a creative professional.
I want to ask you, what mindsets are stopping us from actually creating this creative economy? Yung nga ba?
Tignan natin sa school. sa
Oo.
school level alone, di ba? When you go grades 11 and 12, parating sinasabi ng tao, go for something more practical. Go be a
Ano yan,
doctor,
FIBO?
businessman, di ba? They don't say, go be a writer. Don't, di ba? There's always no
Yeah.
do that. That's why if you look at Archipelago, very carefully curated, that the teachers in the courses are actually also experts. Because we want to put out the message that, hey, these guys can make a living and they made a successful living out of being creative. So if you notice the job fair, wala namang creatives dyan, di ba? It's always the traditional business companies. Why do career counselors not
Malapit na yung ad agency.
Oo, yun lang. But not even a lot of you will see the big conglomerates in retail, in banking,
Or design.
You don't see an architecture firm. You don't see a design firm. You don't see things like that, diba? It's parang why? Because people don't think.
Quickly, I'll ask you a difficult
Sure.
question.
Sige, nako, patay. Next
Pero
week
ako rin meron din.
Sige,
Dr.
sige, go.
Piazza. Kasi we don't like in Ateneo, you mentioned Jim Paredes.
Mm,
Sa Atenean, di ba?
yes,
And yet, he's really a singer, performer, songwriter. Parang,
yes.
how did he learn that? Did he learn it on his own? Of course, he learned from Rolando Tino yata yung sa lyrics. But how did he... but parang Ateneo doesn't have this, doesn't have that mindset as well, no? That, you can pay Ateneo tuition fee and have Ateneo lifestyle as an artist. Parang wala yatang ganyan sa Ateneo.
Wala na. How recent was the College of Fine Arts?
Yeah, very recent. Parang we only have siguro ba 10
And
batches pa lang. Yeah.
Diba? And yet, look at the Ateneans who are successful in the creative industries. You have a Jo Marie Chan. You have a Chito Miranda Parroquia. You have, Jim Paredes. Again, those are the guys in front. Look at the people behind the scenes. Diba? Who are the people? You have people like Ian Monsod, who's the CEO now of the whole conglomerate of Globe for their entertainment and media. Right?
Siguro what I'm trying to
People
say,
like him.
what I'm trying to say is like Athenians need to take this path of practicality first, and then they develop their wings and become the creatives that they actually are.
Yes, but is that necessary? Yun ang tatanong ko sana kay Twinkie. Kasi even I'm from the basic education, yung senior high school ngayon, there actually are several tracks. One is the college track at yun ang lahat na pinupuntahan ng iba. So they have strands within that track. Pero meron ding sports at saka creatives. Walang kumukuha ng mga yun because yung safe track at yung proven na route ay yung academic track. So they're like taking senior high school just like a preparation for college. Hindi ka tulad pwede naman na senior high school doon ka na nagsisimula ng iyong creative career, di ba? Because and we don't have those schools. Meron ba tayong high school na yun ang tinuturo? All the other senior high schools are just offering the academic track.
That's it, diba? I think what is the only one for the arts is Makiling, diba?
Makiling, yes. Oh.
Arts. But that's even very fine arts, diba? I mean, because from the very basic level, it's not introduced as a high-achieving profession, right?
Yeah, yun nga ang tanong ko Twinkie. You're coming up with Archipelago to create that industry or baliktad kasi chicken and egg o magkakaroon o may industry na kaya ka mag-create ng Archipelago. So which is ano ba talaga? Ano yung relationship ng dalawa?
It's trying to connect the dots. It's basically saying if you want to be in the industry, these are skills that you need to have. If you're in the industry, these are skills you can further develop. If you are not in the industry, we just want to pique your interest and say, you know what, you don't have to take a songwriting class as a hobby. You can actually think of it as a career. Many people like Jose Marie Chan, for example, he does it as a second career. His core is really his business, right? But he's very successful as a musician, as an artist. And so what we're seeing are the gaps, let's say, in the high school level or even younger. Simple things like you were talking about by theater, for example, it's difficult. We don't even have enough music appreciation classes, film appreciation classes, to even start building the audience.
Yeah.
Has to, that has to happen. So, parang where we are, we're not trying to do all of that. All we're trying to do is just say these are courses that you can take if you are interested in creative things. And guess what? You can have a career in it. right?
Yeah,
So
parang
people-
yun nga yung tanong ko, Twinkie. Yun yata yung natatakot yung iba. May audience ba yan? Why will I invest in studying it? Or it's the other way around. You invest, mauna na muna yung artist para magkaroon ng audience o kailangan magkaroon muna ng audience para magkaroon ng artist?
Sir Ron, you have to find your audience or you have to...
No, Twinkie is also mentioning na kahit sa basic education, yung high school talaga, sana may music appreciation, may film appreciation. Without those, baka mamaya hindi ka nag-create ng market o ng audience na magiging attentive at appreciative dun sa art mo. So,
But you have to be conscious of the audience as well. Parang yung sinasabi ni Twin, at least from a very rudimentary, na it's not just the audience's responsibility. It's also
no, what I mean is, yun nga, yung academe nga, I'm not even referring to Archipelago, no? Sila kasi, they're equipping the artists, those who have the hardware of the software skills, no? Pero yung ding basic education, baka mamaya we have to, our field trips, our music, ganyan. Yeah.
Did we lose Twinkie?
What? No, I totally agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I'm very much so, really focus on science, technology, math. That's definitely essential business. But we lack the focus, as I think a nation, to focus as well on our culture, right? And that growth. Not everybody is a Lea Salonga who can leapfrog through all of that because sheer talent really gets her everywhere, But she worked hard through it. She started as a child, diba? Imagine Ryan Cayabyab, who was told not to take music by his parents, and he took business, right? And if he didn't follow really and get the scholarship to study in the College of Music, he could have lost a national artist in music, diba? I mean, it's basically the idea that also, just to your point, it's not necessarily a mindset. It's also a lack of content material. It's a lack of trained teachers who have the context to teach it. Because like let's say in the public schools, pag MAPE, music, arts, PE, health, diba?
Para sama-sama na lahat yun.
3-week cycle non. So kung ang hilig niya sports once every 3 weeks, kung hilig niya music once every 3 weeks, you have to dedicate something to it, right? According to DepEd, whom we're working with also, less than 1% of the student population sign up for the creative and arts track. And that's why they're partnering with us because they're saying, we need the materials. We need these people to teach these things. Because nga, hindi nakikita ng student na may path na pwede pala yung maging career. Diba? They look at it as entertainment. They don't see it. Their entertainment is somebody's full-time job. Right? So, pwede pa rin yun, diba?
So, post-DepEd, kasi my son is magka-college na, and he's into music, creating music, all the instruments he learned by himself. I think he really has a knack and inclination towards music. How does he, anong game plan niya? Maging daring ba siya na wag na mag-college at kumuha na lang ng mga soft skills courses? Maybe that's my question kay Twinkie. Anong advice mo? This very practical decision point, no? Even my son is having a hard time choosing a course kasi alam niya talaga yung gusto niya eh. But at the same time, kukunti naman yung formal courses ng gusto niya. So must I just study humanities to broaden my horizon, and then the how and the other crafts ako nang aaral on my own? But paano ba yan? Paano ba yung Twinkie? How do you advise? What's your advice to such Yeah.
From what I've seen, there are those who go into the formal training. As in, let's say for music, papasok talaga sa conservatory. Right? Sa College of Music, which is very, very difficult to get into, right? Pero that one, they're being prepared for career in the performing arts, or they join competitions as classical singers or musicians or choirs, etc. Right? For example, look at Ateneo Chamber Singers. They're so good. They win competitions. Wala naman yung training sa school, di ba? What did they do? They probably joined the Glee Club or they formed by themselves. Imagine if people like that were honed early on in their craft, right? What could they possibly even achieve more? And what we're trying to do in Archipelago is also tell people that, hey, even if you're not artistic, you can actually still thrive in what is perceived to be creative, Meaning, you can be in the business side of film. You can be in advertising. You can be a producer. You can be
All
a
right.
writer. You don't have to be the performer, di ba?
In Ateneo, sa Ateneo College, we see that, right? Theater groups, even glee club, and even dance groups like yung CADS. Ang dami nilang members na
Diba?
non-performers.
Like, why do
Yeah.
they join? Why do they form that? Because something in them wants to be expressed, right?
Correct.
Something in them wants to grow. But if they don't have those facilities, if they're not given that encouragement, what will happen? How many people from there, like Trina Belamide, who's also an Atenean, for example,
Yeah.
she's part of ACS. Trina is a very accomplished songwriter, which she does for a living, right? She wrote the famous theme song for World Youth Day when the Pope came. Right?
Yeah.
She's written hit songs for Regine Velasquez. Look at someone like Trina, that she found that healing on her own. It wasn't taught to her in school, right? But can you imagine if you actually open it up to people and they can deepen their skills in wanting to be more
So,
creative?
Twinkie,
It's
is
hard,
Archipelago just the first step in your plan?
Archipelago, well, our first step is to deepen first the courses, because right now we only have 14. We got delayed in production dahil maraming mentors at production na nagka-COVID. So that's one. But it's to deepen the courses. But behind the scenes, what I'm doing is also partnering with professionals in the industry so that there can be a pipeline eventually. Because when you join, for example, with us, we have 3 kinds of learning. Diba? There's video on demand, which is watching stuff online.
Yeah.
Workshops and webinars, which are drilled down, interactive class. The one thing that's hard with watching online that you don't get to do is talk to your classmates. Diba? And that's very important in the learning process. That's why with us, we have a chat group within the class, right? To supplement that there's interaction. Now, what we want is to connect the dots, have a lot more courses, but eventually, really the goal is to build a creative community so that they can find their future collaborators, their future clients, the future people they'll hire, and then as we're connecting that with the professional industries, because those are the teachers, they now become the people who will say, yan, magaling yan, let's do that. It's leveling up basically. It's like going to school, kaso lang in college, diba? Parang the teachers leave you, bahala ka na, then you go to the placement office if ever. Here, what we're trying to do is provide the education and try to find a way to connect them, create the pipeline of talent development from learning till job opportunities and job fulfillment. That's why the courses are designed. The courses are practical. They're not academic in the sense, right? You're meant to be when you study it, you can practice kaagad.
Ito entertainment industry, creative industry, Twinkie, hindi ba ito limited eye? Ibig ko lang sabihin, aabot ba yan sa punto na parang, saturated na eh. Wala, or this is a boundless enterprise o infinite ang possibilities. Kasi pag ginawa na nga natin ganyan lahat, there's a reason why kokonti lang artist, but there's a reason but mas marami nagbibusiness. But I don't know, I am not sure. Baka mamaya it's an infinite possibilities industry. Hindi ko nga alam eh. Baka iba, meron ng Regine Velasquez eh. Meron ng Gary V eh. So saan pa ako pupwesto dyan? So baka mamaya kala nila it's a limited, anong say mo doon?
I'll tell you, like one of the products of our music camp, they met at camp, except for the twins, is Ben and Ben. Si
Wow,
Andrew,
yes.
Si Andrew Depano, who's the son of Arnel Depano, right, who wrote Lead Me Lord. Si Ami, I think, teaches in Ateneo, di ba? Or she works at Ateneo, the mom. They met at camp. And who would have thought, the reason why Ben and Ben works is because the music they bring is so fresh, di ba? This modern folk.
Exactly. Oh,
sound.
it's a very unique sound. No?
There's always room to grow, right?
Yeah.
There's always room. Like people will only say there's a Regine Velasquez because Regine already came out.
Yeah.
But, what about the one before that? What about the one that comes after that? So, as long as people have interest, it will never stop. Because I think yung pagiging creative, I hear it so much, especially during the pandemic, where people were going nuts because they couldn't perform. To them, like Lesa Longo was like, oh my God, I can't perform. Parang they were like, I need to do something. I need to sing. I need to. And they
Yeah.
didn't have that. They didn't have that opportunity. Or I remember one of our docus about the music camp, si Joey Ayala, they asked him, so why do you write music? Ang galing ng sagot niya. Because it hurts not to.
Yeah.
Totoo.
And there are people like that. I think it just comes out of them, and you want to be able to recognize that. And so what we're trying to do is just basically put a structure so that can be tapped into, nurtured, encouraged, developed, until they can become really professional and professionals to a skill level where they're so employable even here and abroad. Di ba?
Correct.
Not to say naman that we don't have success stories. We do. It's just that it's not en masse because it's very splintered across the country. Unlike Korea, it was really a national policy to make it a whole movement. It was
Yeah.
really, the government really demanded it. Diba? They made it a
I
law.
think Singapore has already chosen that path also. Kailan lang.
Yeah.
Kasi I remember when we were benchmarking with education and everyone was just thinking of employment and entrepreneurial skills. Ngayon they realized na parang creativity is the way to go, and they've been investing in that also. Yun nga, parang dapat din yata ang Pilipinas kasi mas
So where is it now, the creative industries bill?
What I last remember, right, was that it had to get the third reading pass in the Senate.
Yeah.
So they consolidated the bill from the lower house, which was approved. It was in the third pass. And then after the third pass, of course, is when it's given to the president. I don't know where it is now because it entered the campaign period.
Yeah.
So,
Parang
but
nasa third pass na nga. We knew about that sa actor din kasi we were also pushing for that we were coordinating with Congressman Top de Venecia.
Right.
Kasi nga siya yung ano niyan. Yeah. I've seen master classes being offered
Yes.
online, like Dame Helen Mirren, si Timbaland, si John
master
Apato. How similar and how different is Archipelago?
Well, when you look at masterclass, that model, grabe talaga who they have, diba? I mean, it's really fantastic, the lineup. They're really the masters, right?
Yeah.
For cooking, it's Gordon Ramsay. For comedy, it's Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Diba? Songwriting is Alicia Keys. Business is Bob Iger, diba? Pero the thing with masterclass is, with those kinds of options, is one way. You never get to meet them.
Yeah. I'm sure, di ba? Sa dami.
You never get to meet your classmates. Second, it's subscription model and it's expensive, right? When you actually at Archipelago, our video on demand courses, our prices are very reasonable. It's only 1.5 for a whole course, and then whether it's 10 videos or 20 videos, it's 1.5 for workshops, which is 8 hours live with the teacher. It's 8,000 pesos. So it's 1,000 pesos per hour. But Jim Paredes' songwriting workshop now is 16 hours. So it's like paying 500 pesos an hour to learn Jim. Diba?
Yeah.
So our prices are very competitive. Now, the difference with masterclass is they just do that one-off. You don't, and what we're trying to do with Wising is, wala yung ladder. Like, okay, you're a professional, you're in the third round. You don't know pala that you need to know certain things before that. Kasi like when you compare us with mga YouTube and all of that, syempre, we did this test run songwriting class with Louis Ocampo and some students. So we had 2 high school students, college student, a hobbyist to learn how to play music online, who took a songwriting class, and then a professional. And what the student said was, a lot of things we can learn on YouTube, for sure. But nobody tells us what's the next step. Nobody tells us
it's
the
like
real
smorgasbord
insight.
lang siya nakakalat na ganun.
Exactly. No one gives us the insight of how does it happen in real life. That's why when we were developing courses, like figuring out, like creating your headspace, that course taught by a British gentleman, Jeff Langston, who's a coach in the music industry in the UK. It's explaining things like, okay, you go into the industry, you're excited, you're talented, people believe in you, and then you get your first rejection. Or your first song works and then you get the pressure of, now, how do I do a second song? And that pressure builds. Nobody tells them how to handle it, right? Nobody tells you what to do Or when, let's say, you're an artist and they think, oh, I'm just getting bookings, I have gigs, that's my career. No, nobody tells you, how do you get a big endorsement? How do you get noticed? How do you build up your audience? Those are things that, to me, in the industry, nakikita ko na a lot of things I know, I learned on the job. Nobody told me or taught me, di ba? And so many people in the industry like that, things we learned on the job. And then they say, sana, if I knew this in school, blah, 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 di ba?
But also, I think, Winky, what you're doing is telling us education really is not just, there's so much room for improvement in education, and lalo na yung sinasabi mo na yung you connect them to the creative community. Oh,
Yes.
that's part of education pala, Sir Ron, no? Yung you
Yes, definitely. Oh.
bridge
Ako nga,
that. And,
I'd like to promote this. I know that in our show we don't usually promote, but when you say promote, kasi it's usually the promoter that needs something. And then it's usually the promoter that needs something. They need an audience or what. Pero ito, I promote this because I think we need it. Kumbaga, promoting it means here. Ito yung hinahanap natin matagal na, hindi natin alam saan hanapin. Because some colleges have offered, parang alam ko, La Salle Benil, ay medyo may ganyan, very, very particular. You mint, ganyan. But somehow, even more particular and specific and special ay itong mga archipelago. They are really, ito, ang mga teachers dito para pabalik na mula sa biyahe. Kumbaga, dami na nilang natutuhan, pabalik na ako, anak, iha, pabalik na ako at ito yung mga natutuhan ko. Parang ganun yung
hindi na yata wrong kasi these are people who are still active in the industry.
Yeah, but what I mean, pabalik na yun nga, yung sana may nagturo sa akin ito. Yung may mga ganyan, yung nagtutukoy ni Twinkie na may mga realizations. So yeah.
The insighting is important. Yung kwento I'll share with you, the course we're developing with Gary Valenciano, the working title's called parang The Purpose-Driven Artist. Because diba Gary naman, of course, always has his faith-based, inspirational nature, diba? It's part of who he is. So when we were talking, I was telling him, Gary, forget talking about how you are now. No one can relate, right? Because you're at a level that so many people still don't even think that they can get there, right? His topic, his course, is he's talking about where he was when he was starting. So when he was a young artist, what are the things he needed to know? What are the things he needed to learn? What values did he have to develop? What habits did he have to come up with? What part of his craft did he have to get good at, diba? So it's pretty much on the journey, you're finding out yung basic why. Why am I doing this? And then as you're doing it, you keep on checking yourself along the way. What kind of instruments and tools do I need to have? How do I relate to people? Even that part of his course talks about when business comes in. Well, malaki ka na, hired na, may sponsor na. Pero hinihingi ng sponsor ganito. That's not what you want to do artistically. How do you balance? How do you balance your craft with the business side of things? So these are the types of courses we're also looking at. Just to be clear, we're not going head to head with the classroom at all.
Yeah.
We're just offering the practical application of what's in the classroom. Diba?
Yeah.
Learning advertising principles, of course, are taught in an advertising or marketing class. But telling you how to use it in the real world is something else. Diba? Like, for example, I don't think this is ever even touched on. I don't know, forgive me if I am completely ignorant, in the business school, the concept of copyright and intellectual property rights.
Ngayon pa lang.
Ngayon pa lang. But we have a...
Ask John. Twinkie.
John, my brother. Si Dr. John.
Dr.
Si
John.
Oh, doctor. May doctor na kami sa pamilya. Dapat ako yun I was supposed to be the PhD by age 30. I got distracted by JVP and music. Iba na yung path ko. No, but we're going to start teaching a course on intellectual property and copyright for creatives. And then brand building for creatives. Very specific to you. If you're an artist, how do you tell your story? What makes you interesting to people? I mean, these are things I can say in cuento, but in practice, it's a whole session. I will sit with the person and really, I run these modules with artists, and it's a whole day of like understanding this, who you are, where you're at. how
Alright.
to build your story, di ba? Mga ganun.
As you can well see, Ron, Twinkie can can talk about this forever. So
Yeah.
we learned
Well,
that,
sorry.
Twinkie.
Yeah.
I certainly
Oh.
learned a lot about what's going on out there and what needs to be done, and of course, this creative industries bill. I will chat you about something else, but it's related to that.
Sure. You have any talents there that you want to push our way, by all means. Alam mo,
Yeah.
maraming job openings. Sinasabi lang ng mga employers, hindi qualified yung mga tao.
Yun pa, di ba? Yung match, there's really a mismatch between the schools and industry. So,
Yeah.
so Sir Ron, so thank you, Twinkie. It's
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
thank you for
eye-opening.
bridging that gap. at least in theoretically, no. It's very inspiring. Parang this path you are providing through Archipelago. And we wish you all the best. And ako rin, aaralin ko pa yan. I was looking all the courses. Yeah.
I'm more than interested to actually, I talked to John about this, more than interested to actually go to schools and give talks about the creative industries. Just to tell people what it's all about and what they can do. Because you have to really support, just as a last thing, regardless of being a practitioner, the creative industries thrive when there is a supporter and an audience.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So even if you're just clapping your hands because you bought the ticket to the show, that is a big contribution. So, everybody really can do something about it. So, partly developing the skill is also developing audience for it and the ears and appreciation. Kasi, di ba, sayang, Sir Jovi, lahat ng sinulat mo kung wala namang manunood.
Oo, di ba?
Di ba?
Yeah. Or yeah, exactly. Kailangan may manonood talaga.
Oo, at may hilig. May hilig, di ba?
Oo, dapat napukaw mo na sila. Para nasindihan na sila.
Oo,
In-
kasi diba
somehow.
si Kong Toff was saying all he wanted to do was be in theater. But nobody ever encouraged him. So he found his own way in theater until, of course, ngayon, naging congressman siya, championing the creative industries, di ba? So what we want to do is strengthen that pwede mangyari. Right now at this point in school, think about it lang, that you can actually have this career, di ba? And then you can take a look at our courses and see if something applies to you. But I'm more than willing to go to schools and talk about it, even bring mentors in. Maybe we bring
Yeah.
mentors in and have
Hindi,
them share their story.
meron kami mga career exploration sa high school and even educational exploration. Kahit dapat doon pa lang sa level na yon na nababalitaan na nila itong mga paths na ganito.
Oh, tama,
Yeah.
because we can bring, let's say, a Maestro Ryan, or we can bring Chito of Parokya, or we can bring Trina, or we can bring Jaco De Leon, who's also an Atenean, the one who's giving
Yeah. Alumnus namin yun.
diba? So
Yeah.
we can, and he can talk about that. Like, we can bring all these different teachers in, to talk about, hey, guys, it's fun and you can actually make a living doing what you
Sarap
love.
siguro. Yeah, doing what you love.
Hindi yung-
That has been mentioned all the time, no? Yung sana yung trabaho mo is something you love, something that makes you serve people, and then something that gives you livelihood.
Yung ano, diba, our key phrase there at Archipelago is to turn your passion into a profession.
Wow, yeah.
How to turn your passion into a profession. That's in a nutshell what we're trying to do through short courses. Diba? So that's really it. So, but I really did want to be a teacher, to be very honest. But wala, the love for music was far greater than wanting to teach. So tama si Joey Ayala, you do what you love and the money will come. Diba? Ganun yun. Ganun naman, even if you do science or technology or business, you have to love it eh. Nobody who's walang ganas will succeed. Right? Whatever it is.
Yes.
Sabi nga ni Confucius. Si Confucius ba yun? Choose a job that you love and you'll never have to work all your life.
That's true. Sir Ron and Con, Sir Jovi, I'll give you one. Pick what course you like. I'll give you a free slot to experience it.
Wow! Teka.
I'll give you.
I like that wala dito sa choices na tinitingnan ko ngayon eh. But
Wala
what I
pa.
like, the one you mentioned, the first one, how to,
How to sell your creative idea.
yeah.
It's in the Creator's Toolkit by JB Tapia. Sige,
Okay.
I can enroll you.
So,
in.
yeah, baka doon nga. Kasi may design, may music, may content creation din is very interesting. Lalo na parang uso yan ngayon.
But there's a science with. So Jovi, what do you want?
I'll tell you.
Wala pa yung
Ako rin. Hindi pa touch move yun. I'll look through them.
Yeah, we have naman our group but let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know. We actually also
Wow.
give away scholarships. We're partnered with Inquirer Foundation. We're giving away 300 scholarships to fresh graduates and young professionals. So
Really amazing.
Yes. That's
yeah,
that's
to really get them
very,
interested.
very inspiring.
Ay, salamat. I'm so happy.
Salamat, Twinkie. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
talk to-
So nice to meet you kahit di ko pa nakikita yung mukha mo. But
That's all right.
yeah,
He knows
but
what I look like.
this has been a very, very enlightening
Oh,
session with you. Thank you.
pleasure to be here. Please let me know how we can help you some more. And we really want to reach the students. So if you have any ways how we can also be present to share our ideas more, please let me know.
Sige, Twinkie.
Diba?
Thank you.
Dito, 101, 102, straight A's! Yay! Sige.
Sige, thank you very much, Twinkie.
Thank
Sa
you so
ulitin, no? Sa ulitin. And thank you sa lahat ng tagapakinig namin sa Lundagin Mo, Beybeh. Kita-kita po ulit tayo sa May 2.
Everyone in the world can access this, no? Kasi
Ah,
the Radio Katipunan reaches our alumni abroad as well.
Yes, it's open to everyone. You can take the courses already, except for the ones that are scheduled live. So just browse to the site and then let us know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Maraming salamat. Sir Jovi, thank you. Twinkie,
Alright.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Jovi.
Bye-bye.
Meron? Ano nga ba ang meron? Paano nga bang mabuhay ng tapat sa meron? Don't you wish you can relive your philo classes? The terror teachers? The terrible oral exams? Or the even terrifying but liberating and life-changing aha moments? Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Here's your chance! Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Kasama ang mga pilosopong sina Jovi Miroy at Ron Capinding. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping upward, leaping forward. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping to greater heights, to greater wisdom, to greater magis. Lundag na, Ateneo! Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat